Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the CiL, the Collegiate iRacing League, here for week 2 of 6 on the roadside. And we head to Austria at the Red Bull Ring, brand new track to iRacing fairly recently, and it's going to see its fair share of fun here tonight. Joining me up in the booth, as always, Josh and John, and it's a good time. And John, tell us about it.
Yeah, I think we're excited for this one. Red Bull Ring, new track to iRacing as of, I think, the previous season. So about 12 weeks ago, and now it has been incorporated into the CiL calendar. I think all the drivers have been looking forward to this one. It's not the longest track ever, only about 2.6 miles clockwise and 10 turns, though I think you could probably count it down to 9 turns. Turn 2 is hardly a turn at all, but either way, there's definitely a few tricky corners out there. It's a bit of a challenge for car setup with the amount of elevation change that you get. See, we're here in Spielberg, Austria, 2,200 feet of elevation. Pretty hot track temperature for some of these drivers out there, at least compared to what they've been used to. 110-degree track temp, 72-degree ambient temperature with a good amount of humidity as well. Not too much wind, though, so hopefully it's a pretty consistent, stable platform for some of these drivers going through the race. And definitely a few tricky corners, as I just mentioned, though, Josh. T3, T9, and T10 and T6, actually, are all quite tricky. And you really got to be on top of your car at all points in this track. And with these new GT3 tires, guys are going to have to learn how to race them as well.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And we get the latest newcomer here. We have the new Ferrari, the GT3 Evo, and the Evo moniker popping up on some of these cars. The Audi, the Lamborghini brings on some aerodynamic upgrades, brings on some driver aids, a little bit of handling difference, new part categories from these factory teams, and these automotive manufacturers making changes, learning new lessons, and applying that to the new cars. And then the software here staying true to life, true to the real world. And so that's exciting to see. We'll see if this car has pace. We know sometimes the newer iRacing machines are favored in the balance of performance. And so that'll be something that these drivers will have considered here.
Yeah, definitely. And last week it was Sean Campbell that took the victory out on the Daytona road course. Sean Valandia, another Sean from UCLA, came up second in that. Sean Campbell winning for Randolph Community College. And then Christian Gomez for FIU, the inaugural FIU podium of the season as well. And for the alumni, it was Jeremy Rogers from Texas A&M University taking home the win, and followed up very closely by Avery Walker and then Rahul Bolaneni. But I think the order's probably going to get mixed up a little bit here today. We've got the students heading out for 10 minutes of qualifying right now. Open 10-minute qualifying, all cars on track at the same time. So maybe a little bit of strategy to be played from some of those multi-car teams. We'll see if the FIU team capitalizes on, I think it's the same 3-car pack of Esteban Munoz, Luis Diaz, and then Christian Gomez that they have out there at the moment.
Yeah, it is, and these guys are going to be working hard. We saw a lot of fast laps, John. We saw the guys in race trim, and then we saw the guys in qualifying trim certainly putting down their fast laps, seeing things like low 130s, 129s, and right, not only pace but consistency. Drivers able to handle their cars to put it where they want. We've seen continually these teams and these drivers putting in 5, 10, 20 hours a week preparing their cars, their setups, determining race strategy, looking at the weather, looking at the cloud cover, what's the track temperature going to be, and how's their car going to respond, and what happens if I have a hotter track, or if we start these races at noon. So what if that sun comes out and the temperature gets a little bit warmer? And so these are all things these drivers are accounting for, and they're learning. And I think we were just talking about Sean Campbell representing Randolph, and he's able to do quite well in the quick experiments, and then extrapolate that onto what his car will do in other areas, and not just one car. We've seen him in the McLaren, and then today in the BMW. So guys, a lot to watch, and maybe a little bit to learn, especially for myself up here in the booth.
Yeah, and these guys are going to show us how it's done at least, though. You see the UCLA machine for Sean Valandia pulling over to the side, trying to get a little bit better gap to some of the other cars in qualifying. Draft can be helpful here, but you have to be careful with it. You don't want to be too close when you start your lap to the car in front. Otherwise, that will cost you some time through the more downforce crucial corners. But anyways, I think we're going to ride on board with Sean here as he starts his next flying lap. He's definitely starting to get those tires ready to go. New tires on the GT3 cars starting this season. So they've got a little bit of a different warm-up strategy than before. They take a little bit longer to come up to full temperature, and then they hit that peak grip level, that optimum traction point about 3 laps in or so, and then they start to degrade just a few tenths for the next couple of laps, and then start to hit sort of an even rhythm as we see him once again pulling over the side, letting some other cars pass to try to get that slingshot onto the straight. So through turn 9 right now, onto turn 10, going to use all that curb on the outside to try to set up the best lap possible, carry as much speed on the straight as he starts his flying lap here in Austria. Big climb up to turn 1, as you see, much like Circuit of the Americas in Texas, but this one turns the other way, looking for that 100-meter board there on the left-hand side. Turn it in second gear, just gets away with a little bit of curb action there. There's a turtle curb on the outside of that can upset the car, but if you run on top of it just right, that'll actually help slingshot the exit. Going through turn 2 right now, which you can see is totally flat for these cars. I'm looking for that 100-meter board again, braking just before it down into first gear. Turn it in nice and late and try to maximize that traction there on exit. Traction control going to be working hard on all of these cars tonight as they try to get through turn 3 at the top of that hill. Now down to turn 4, downhill braking zone. Get the car all the way over to the left-hand side just before the 100-meter board. Down to second gear, get it turned in. Miss the apex just a little bit. Don't run too wide on exit. There's tons of gravel out there as the Mercedes in front has just found out. And now swing it back over to the right-hand side for turn 6. A little bit of oversteer you can get pretty common on the entry to this corner, but Sean manages it absolutely expertly. Keeps it inbounds there on the exit into turn 7 right now. Hooks it up beautifully with that apex on the power super early in third gear. Up through the gears now, fourth gear, and then fifth gear he will arrive at before going to turn 9. Another downhill right-hander. It's blind entry, and then you got to let it run out nice and wide. You can get away with a lot of track limits there. That is just about in bounds. And then down to third gear, last corner, turn 10. Car on the exit there. Bit of a collision in qualifying, but I think Sean stayed in it, and he's going to get his first flying lap in. And that is going to put him actually at the top of the timesheet, Josh, with a 129.867. Pretty good lap from Sean. I think he's going to take a breather and get a new set of tires on that car and go again.
New set of tires, maybe a new set of Nomex under that suit. They're coming off the final turn, and that's a note that I have, John. That coming off the final turn, there is a rumble strip there on the outside of the yellow or the red and white curving, and if your car rides out a little bit far, then you are able. It'll actually grab that car. Pretty high coefficient of friction there that it'll bring that car in, and it's very possible to get an off track in that area, but you do have to push it a little more than your mind thinks is necessary, because there's that room and there's that potential for time out there. The other thing that I looked at this track that gets me is we talked about turn 3 or 2 depending how you count, but it's sharp, it's uphill braking, and it turns right, and you get on throttle just over a crest, and even while you are cresting that corner, and so that can unsettle the car a little bit, and certainly work out, as you said, the traction control on these cars and the throttle patience that these drivers have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on the first lap, we're going to see if we're going to see an incident on the first lap, I expect it to actually be a turn 3 rather than turn 1. You've got that long draft between turn 1 through turn 2 and up to turn 3 that allows guys to get really close, and so that pack's still going to be pretty tight as they enter turn 3 on that first lap, and it's a big overtaking opportunity. We see it in Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, all the series that race there, including GT cars. It's a prime overtaking opportunity, especially on that first lap. Backward shot here. This will be looking on from the McLaren. Plenty of flames shooting out from the rear of that car. Spectacular camera shot there as we go down into turns 6, 7, and 8, and a little bit loose there actually on the exit. That would have been for Nick Beaver in that McLaren. They were getting a little loose there, and as I mentioned, it's a challenge to set up the cars for this track, Josh, because with the elevation change, it's going to understeer naturally in some corners, it's going to oversteer naturally in others. It's just how much you can find that balance, and both Nick Beaver diving quickly into the pits. By F1 standards, that would not be a legal pit entrance, but I think by our standards, it just about makes it.
It does indeed. If it fits, it ships. So, guys, I'm going to take this opportunity to jump the gun on my prediction for this race. He's got his day paint. He's from California. He likes the sun. It is Sean Belandia and UCLA in that McLaren. I know that these guys are pretty proud of how their car runs, looks, and drives. Sean Valandia, we saw a little bit last season, fast. Got a hold of the McLaren this season. Guys has been on another level, and he is up there trying to make his mark up ahead of Avery Walker and Parker Eaton, guys we've seen that have the speed, and putting that McLaren atop the board. So Sean Valandia looking good right here in qualifying. Still time to go in qualifying, but nonetheless, really excited to see what Sean does for the University of California, Los Angeles, and the Bruins, and see where they end up about an hour after the green flag drops.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean was lightning fast in the Daytona opener, coming away P2 in that race. But I tell you who I'm looking at. It's going to be Parker Eaton for NC State. He missed the Daytona opener, unfortunately, so he's got quite a bit of work to do in the points battle to catch on up. These guys do have one drop week available to them, so their worst finish from any of the 6 races will get dropped, including if you do not make one of those 6 races, which is already the case for Parker Eaton. But that just puts all the more pressure on him and the NC State team to get great results here tonight. So, Jarrett, that's who I'm watching. Who you got on your mind tonight?
Well, tell you what, you guys picked 2 very good picks, but I'm going to go a little further back. I'm looking at Christian Gomez from FIU, that Panther Esports team, and they've been consistent all year long. We've talked to Christian up here in the booth after each race, the opener at Daytona for both the road and the oval side, so the FIU team well versed in getting on the podium, and it would not shock me to see the 65 up there battling for a win here tonight. Josh?
Well, I agree, and yeah, it's going to be several players in this. So you guys have heard my pick, but I think that that Ford, guys, we do not see a lot of Fords up front, but Carl Lemkool making that St. Louis University machine run, and we know that you mentioned Christian Gomez. He'll be one to watch. Looking at Ted Burns, guys, in the McLaren. Did not have Ted Burns and the University of Wisconsin fielding a McLaren on my bingo card, but nonetheless cracking that top 10. Having been out of a few rounds of CiL road races. So I'm looking to see where the Wisconsin machine places, and Rahul Bolinetti. We know, in fact, well, as it runs right now, he would start right behind Ted Burns, and we've seen that is a competitive matchup and can be for about an hour or so. So, guys, we could run up and down the leaderboard, but we have no shortage of individuals, and it's going to be our job to capture the different battles all around this track, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Nicholas Patinella from Robert Morris University on your screen right now, also making his way around in McLaren with that fantastic American flag paint job. And Jarrett, maybe we can get a shot at, well, actually, that's we'll have to probably wait for the race start for this one. But I think Scott Ratliff also has a pretty special paint for us tonight there on that Ford. A nice 9/11 September 11th tribute. We will never forget there across the rear wing. Excellent car for that paint scheme, and Scott paying his respects, as we all should, for that tragic day back in the early 2000s and 2001 for September 11th.
Looking forward now, we're seeing these guys trying to get that track's going to get a little bit warmer with the sun, going to get a little bit rubbered in. We talked about this, the final corner right there through the apex, and a little bit of dirt sprouting up, maybe through a little bit of contact with these cars, but that's where your car can grip. Going down now into turn 1, looks like both drivers will have completed that qualifying run, and you can see the checkered flags in your towers. So these guys going to complete their final run, and then we're going to bring the grid and the pre-race festivities to your computer screen.
Yes, absolutely. So those were our final predictions here. So we got Parker Eaton, Sean Valandia, and Christian Gomez as our picks for this race, but there are plenty of other drivers with plenty of talent in this field that can all get it done. So with qualifying finished now, I think that was the last car to cross the line. Or I might stand corrected here. We've got a couple other cars out on track, but I don't think that they are still on a flying lap at the moment. But either way, the top 10 right now as it sits are Sean Valandia coming away with the pole position. Avery Walker pole position for the alumni, but second overall. Sean Campbell in third spot. Parker Eaton in fourth spot. Kyle Bonin in the fifth position. Carl Lemkool in sixth, another alumni contender in the field. Christian Gomez, the lead car for the FIU team, there in seventh. Thomas Toomey, another I was about to say another Porsche, but he's actually changed cars this week to the McLaren in 8th place for Thomas Toomey. Ted Burns joins us in 9th position, and then Nathaniel Wiley joins us in 10th position. And then on to Cohen Evans for IUPUI, starting in 11th. Rahul Bolaneni for Michigan Tech in 12th position. And then to Matthew Nordberg, the second NC State machine. He's got Parker Eaton up the road from him to help him out if he can later in the race. Matthew starts 13th. Justin Roberts for Clemson in 14th position. Alex Jensen for Embry-Riddle in 15th. Ryan Whitlock for Alabama Huntsville in 16th. Austin DeLong in 17th. Luis Diaz, another FIU car to keep your eye on, in 18th. Hagen Johnson for Clemson University is going to start in 19th, and then a teammate joins him on the other side, Andrew Williams in 20th, also from Clemson. Nick Trollman, who I actually had the pleasure of meeting this week, guys, out there at Laguna Seca for the IMSA racing going on out there, will start 21st from Cal State Long Beach. And then John Tindall for VCU in 22nd. Nicholas Daly for UT Arlington in 23rd. Christian Hill for Mount St. Mary's in 24th. And then on to Derek Haas in the 25th position for UCF. Alexander Klenk, a name we're used to seeing much further up the field for WPI University. And then Evan Puckett for Ball State, Scott Ratliff for Pittsburgh State, Gavin Keithley for Minnesota, Nicholas Patinella for Robert Morris. And then Andrew Burrell for Clemson University in 31st, Benjamin Smith for Lynchburg in 32nd, Nick Beaver in 33rd for NDSU, and then Alexandre Piccini in 34th, Derek Ekman is 35th, Esteban Munoz, your final FIU entrant, in 36th, Miller Diageo, I'm going to have to get that one right from him later after this, but for BYU in 37th, and then Nathan Brunga 38th, and Colin Kolpa, your final entrant for Indiana, in 39th.
Looks like just in time for the pace car to start off. Excellent timing. And we have a little bit of a race coming up. It's going to be 1 hour. These cars will make one pit stop throughout that. They do get one faster paired, lest the race gets a little bit too exciting for some. Like in my pick to win, the UCLA Bruins going to be on the front row. That Virginia machine of Avery Walker looking good on the outside as well. So it's going to be a mad dash down into turn one. You mentioned it. Turn one, you can escape. There's a little bit of runoff over that curve, but it's going to be turn three, guys, where we see everybody hard on the brakes, a lot of slippage, and coming to the green flag right now.
So Sean Validia from UCLA going to bring us to the green flag out of the final corner, and he'll take the green flag early. Going to spread that field out. He'll have no trouble heading into turn one. Back behind him, Avery Walker going to go side by side with Sean Campbell. Sean Campbell actually clearing as they head into one. Top five single file.
Top five single file through turn one. Everybody clean so far through it. No cars running too wide. We see a huge gaggle of cars that didn't quite get paired up there before the start of the race, but with 39 cars, I think it was, in the field, that can definitely happen. Looks like Sean Campbell's not going to, or sorry, Sean Valandi is not quite going to come under attack into turn one, but we know Campbell is a master of strategy. That was what won him the race at Daytona. A couple other cars going side by side into turns three. We said this was going to be the overtaking opportunity at the start of the race. A lot of guys getting checked up, a lot of traffic still to go in this field. These leaders are hard on the throttle. Meanwhile, everybody else is still trying to get it sorted out. A little bit of weaving going on up at the front from Valandia in the braking zone, but no attempt yet. Looks like, I think that was Ted Burns getting past Carl Lempool into Ford, that white McLaren Wisconsin machine, making moves early in this race. Now he's got Christian Gomez in front of him to hunt down the Wisconsin machine up to 7th at the moment. Then further on down the field, we've got a couple other cars battling for position. We've got NC State, I believe, Matthew Nordberg, and I think that was the Embry-Riddle machine going side by side.
Embry-Riddle driven by Alex Jensen. You see there on your screen trying to get the inside. He'll have a little bit of advantage coming down into the final two corners. Both right-handers, but they are fast. That Porsche is going to have a good drive off, but the engine in front of that Mercedes and that AMG power is going to put him ahead just for now. Back across the apex, and we move back to our leader, Sean Campbell, almost sizing up, stalking his prey as he tries to look at how to get around that Bruin machine. And we know that he doesn't feel the pressure. This is a long race. He doesn't need to get around right now. He's able to be just kind of waiting there, following in tracks. You can be sure, guys, especially that he is saving fuel, that he is not all in gas. So he is making a peak right now. We're going to go back to Evan Puckett, Ball State University. This is in Sector 2, looking a little bit on the outside. And we talked about, John, you mentioned it, it's possible to get just a little bit loose right there.
We saw Evan unfortunately falling victim to that, and another setup tool that you can use. Oh, and he gets collected by a spun Lamborghini on the second to last corner. But got to keep your highs up and be aware that cars can be anywhere on this track with a 39 car field, and the Lamborghini getting it over-rotated there on the entrance. With the ABS on this car, it's not exactly possible to hold the brake and lock up the tires and take a predictable trajectory. It looks like we've actually had a pass for the lead at some point in the last 30 seconds or so. Sean Campbell now leads this field through turns 6, 7, and 8. Sean Delandia has relinquished that front position to Campbell. That may have been a planned overtake by Campbell and a planned relinquishing by Delandia, because as we remember, Campbell was in second and third for a lot of that Daytona race, saved a lot of fuel. That was really what won him the race there. I think Delandia doesn't want to let him get away with that one twice, Josh.
No, I think that's correct. And, Sean using some of his strategy. No stranger to competitive racing and hour-long race strategy himself. That UCLA crew knows how to get that car set up. You can see the Ford on the inside there. That is Carl Lemcool from St. Louis University. So he's going to have the outside. He's going to have a really tough to defend. Not sure if he'll even have a chance against Clemson University's Justin Roberts. Going to be in that orange Ferrari. That's the new Evo we talked about on the inside, with enough speed actually to cover maybe a move under braking, but everybody lives to tell. Going to be after back up on that curb and the long trail. Now, actually, Carl Lempool is going to have a little bit of draft. Will he try and make a move into this longer sweeping turn 4? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Carl was a little bit compromised in turn 1. He had to take that inside line to get around the other car. That put him on the back foot coming out of turn 1, which was what allowed that Ferrari machine to make his way past. So Justin Roberts moving his way up into the top 12 positions right now. He's got Cohen Evans in front of him, a very fast IUPUI machine to try to chase down at the moment. There's Carl in his full motion rig trying to battle that Ford over the curves and maintain position right there behind Justin Roberts. So Carl right now in 4th in the alumni category. So you note that the alumni are notated with the purple or pink depending on what your contrast settings are on your particular screen you're watching this on. Avery Walker, the lead car for the alumni, and then Ted Burns in 2nd for the alumni. So Ted Burns did not join us for Daytona, but Ted Burns is a name that we are all too familiar with, both in the series and on the podium. A race engineer for Kelly Moss Road and Race just got back from India, I believe, where they were doing some Porsche Carrera Cup racing out there, but not choosing Carrera Cup today. No Carrera Cup option. The 911 GT3R is the Porsche that that Ted still chooses to not drive. Actually, the McLaren's a bit of a surprise choice for him, for me. So now we're looking back from Rahul Bolaneni with Cohen Evans just behind. He can't quite get close enough into turn 3 here. Big late braking moment there from Cohen, but not quite close enough. He might have a shot down here into turn 4.
Down into turn 4. That's Cohen Evans from Indiana University and Purdue University there in Indiana. The only college with a motorsport engineering degree. That occupies half of Cohen's time, along with a mechanical engineering degree. So no slouch in the classroom or on the racetrack. We love to see that Jaguar on the side of whatever car he's driving, guys. And we go into Sector 2 as close as ever to the back bumper, back into the twisty bits here, John.
Yeah, these twisty bits, and so into turn 5 or 6, I believe it is. That's one of the tricky ones where that car can get really unloaded there on the entrance and then tucked up underneath the wing. You've got to squeeze that throttle really early here to really take advantage of all the space that you have on exit. It's a little bit deceptive, so that's turn 7 there, and kind of grips up there on exit as well. So you'll see some guys trying to put 2 wheels into the gravel there. And Josh, one other thing I think we need to try to keep track of this race, it's going to be instant points. With the amount of speed you can carry through corners, I think we just saw one there from a Mercedes further back in the field, is you can rack up quite a few off-track penalties this race. And so we'll have to keep an eye on that. They've got an upper limit of 17 before they get a drive-through penalty. But with the track limits at the Red Bull Ring, it's not consistent the entire way around. iRacing has done a fantastic job of implementing some new track limits warning features into the game. And so at turns like turn 9 and turn 10, you can go outside the red and white curbing, but not at the other turns, as we see UTA on the inside into turn 3, trying to make a move right now on Nick Trollman. The 000 machine going very late on the brakes, going to take the wide line around the outside. UTA not quite getting the drive off the corner. I think they're still going to battle down into turn 4, going down this back straight, getting up a good amount of speed, going to be up into 5th gear, and then hard on the brakes. UTA protecting that inside line from the Mercedes there on the outside, giving him just enough space to get his braking done. Still side by side, but that outside line is pretty tough to hang in turn 4, Josh, and I think UTA will claim that position.
Yeah, and I'm watching here that it is tough to be on that outside. I think a little bit of room was given there. A little bit loose now is North Dakota State. We know that Nick Trollman and Nick Beaver there, you see side by side, McLaren and AMG, no strangers to racing against each other this time for their school colors. The Bison take the advantage, but not before Worcester Polytechnic in front, and Worcester Polytechnic now going to hunt down the Lamborghini from the University of Texas at Arlington. And was going to say that I think back in turn 3, I think that Nick Trollman provided a little bit of room as the Bison are around and several vehicles are around in the final sector just before the final turn. That was North Dakota State University involved as well as Nick Trollman, you see in the AMG Mercedes there. And guys, I think a couple cars taking evasive action to avoid the first, but nonetheless that is 3 cars off to the right. They do have one faster pair that they will consume here shortly. And yeah, you see Nick Trollman there getting back on track, but tough break for those guys and not what we expected. You see pretty minimal damage there to that McLaren.
Yeah, Josh, I think I finally get to use one of my favorite phrases, and that is going to be spinning in sympathy. That was a little bit of what we saw there, I think. So the NDSU machine just kind of got it wrong going into turn 9, and some other guys that were probably focusing a little bit too hard on his rear bumper also made a very similar mistake and maybe tried to take a little bit of avoiding action at the same time. So Sean Campbell up front got a 1X right now, so he's only run off track just once, but he's got a 2.5-second lead right now over Sean Valandia. So Campbell going the opposite strategy of what he ran last week with just, trying to be really patient with the car and not force anything to happen. He's forcing it now. He's going for it. There are no safety cars in this, so the field will not get rejoined if cars choose to go off track, is what we just saw a moment ago. But now UCLA is going to be under fire from Virginia in third. That Virginia machine will lead alumni car in the field, and the only Audi driven by Avery Walker in this instance. But not a lot of Audi love, unfortunately, in this field. Fantastic car, and it's clearly got plenty of pace. That Virginia machine looking good up there in the third position.
Yeah, and a couple of notes there that I think we have seen Carl Lemkool in the University of St. Louis up front. Currently just picked up his fast repair for a little bit of a unique accident that we covered a couple laps ago here on this very part of the track. On the straightaway, actually turned across the bumper of the 45, that's Embry-Riddle University. So that's a fast repair for that crew. But here we follow the train. You can see Nick Beaver trying to make up those positions. You see Kyle Bonin in that big orange striped Clemson Porsche moving down the field here. You see Ted Burns in the McLaren, that Wisconsin machine, looking to pounce on any opportunities here. And naturally, Christian Gomez, guys, hard to pick up a camera shot without that Porsche flying around these curves. We know that Kyle Bonin both and Christian Gomez, a lot of pace in those Porsche machines. Kyle mentioning that he switched from the BMW after Daytona. So developments in car choice, drivers free to choose their weapon anew every weekend. These guys doing that here.
Yeah, I think it was Kyle mentioned it earlier that after the new tire update on the GT3, he really likes the way that this Porsche drives. They added some front-end grip effectively with all of the GT3 cars. So if you had a setup before that was a little bit on the loose side, it was probably even more loose now. But if you had an understeery one or were struggling with that in some quarters, now it's probably a bit more balanced. And so I think some of these guys are finding that their car choice may not be the same as it was pre-update. So that might be why we're seeing some of the shifts in field as far as car choice. But coming down here into turn 1, we've got Embry-Riddle, I think, towards the front of this group, and the Panther Esports machine there for Luis Diaz back there as well. Hagen Johnson's going to lead this group into turn 1 for the moment. Clemson University getting on top of that curb that we talked about, Josh, there on the exit, getting a little bit upset from the bumps. Looks like he's got some front-end damage on that car as well, as Embry-Riddle is going to try to send it around the inside, or sorry, on the inside, on, I think that other Porsche is going to be, what car is that? Is that Rahul Bolaneni from Michigan Tech, I think it is.
That is the Michigan Tech machine, who gives fair play there, maybe through a little bit of patience. We saw that, Carl Lemkool took his fast repair because of that Embry-Riddle machine. So you have to know your folks that are around you. As we go here, it looks like that is the Wisconsin machine. That is Ted Burns taking the scenic route there, almost entering Sector 2. That's that long sweeping turn, and your car can load and unload there. A little bit tricky to get right.
And John, was on his own. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think that was on his own. And John, I was going to say that it is, for a track with so few corners, quite a simple layout here at the Red Bull Ring. They each present their own unique issues. That corner a little bit long with some varying degrees of camber, and then the corner previous, turn 3, we talked about accelerating up over the crest. So a shorter track, but nonetheless trickier than what we normally see from these guys.
Indeed, and guys really like this track because since it is such a short track, you can get into a great rhythm here and just start knocking out lap time after lap time. So some guys are a big fan of that. Others are not a fan of specific corners. I know turn 3 is some drivers' not most favorite corner, as it is quite tricky to get that car slowed down appropriately. As we're riding on board with Matthew Norberg here, trying to put a move on Michigan Tech, going to have to get forced to the outside. Michigan Tech protecting that inside line into turn 3, so it's going to be a late brake dive from the Michigan Tech machine on top of the apex, gets it slowed down. NC State may have a slightly better exit than Michigan Tech going down into turn 4. 2 Porsches going side by side. NC State on the grass. No fear for Matthew Norberg here in the Porsche. Now it's going to be a late break from the NC State machine down into turn 4. Both going side by side. I think NC State's going to get this move done before turn 6. Some other cars turned around there on the outside of turn 4. Josh didn't quite catch who that was. This is going to be one of the BMWs, Nathaniel Wiley from Southern New Hampshire. Getting an upset, I think, on the exit. So just caught the gravel there, spun up that outside rear tire, and that is the result. A spun car in the middle of the track. Some cars having to take avoiding action. Unfortunately, he just had nowhere to go, actually, with that one. Props to him for not trying to spin the car around too quickly. He probably would have taken somebody out there, but not a great place to be. Not fun when you see the entire field coming towards your windscreen.
Well, that is correct, and I was going to say really good racing and racecraft from, that was the NC State machine, and then Michigan Tech, who's now pursuing. I don't know if Michigan Tech had a front axle just alongside the rear bumper of the Porsche, but had to give up any progress to maintain and stay on track with that outside line around that disabled car. So we resume here. You can see Panther Esports. That's Luis Diaz, avid spike ball player, and weekly tournaments, if not more than once a week. Nearly a professional there, spike ball player at Florida International University. And we see the Worcester Polytechnic Institute trying to make a move, but not the drive off that you're looking for, but maybe a little bit of a mess from the AMG. That's going to be leaving the door open. You see a little bit of damage there on the front of the Mercedes. And so Alexander Klank looking to find out where he can make a move. Will he make to the inside? A little bit of a defend. Move under braking, grabs the middle of the track, and leaves just enough room to put the nose of that Porsche, and not much room. Really stopped him on the apex. And that's Alexander Klank, guys, I think made the decision not to turn that AMG. Bit of a cheeky move from the AMG, but he was a little bit further than alongside and was within his right to do that.
Yeah, an aggressive defense, but an expert one nonetheless there from Hagen Johnson in that Clemson machine. We got a Lamborghini turn there going through turn 6. Not sure who that was, but Klank is still on the tail of this Mercedes. He may try to get it done. Is this the Wolfpack machine? Is this an NC State car? This is Benjamin Smith, I stand corrected. University of Lynchburg, just getting it over-rotated there on the apex. May have grabbed a little bit too much curb for what that car needed. A couple cars having to take to the gravel to take some avoiding action. Looked like Scott Ratliff was one of those cars there. So Klank still tucked up under that bumper. They've got Ted Burns joining the back of this field now. So it's Ted Burns, Luis Diaz, Alexander Klank, and Hagen Johnson's going to lead this train of 4 cars up to turn 3. Klank is pretty close, I would say, guys. He's maybe looking for a move here, weaving one way, weaving the other. He's going to look for that inside line, maybe try to make a late braking move into turn 3. Is he going to be able to get it done? Both pretty even on the brakes. Klank's going to take way more of that apex and easily take away that position, but Hagen's going to get a much better run off the corner. I don't think this one's over yet.
Yeah, working on his defense, but he's got that line, and that's the line where he was last time. You saw a great view from the camera crew of what these drivers are seeing as you can see the track develop, the race develop. Hagen Johnson maybe having to look in his mirror a little bit, sees that big Bison McLaren behind. But guys, Alexander Klank now with an open track. He's a dangerous man with such stuff ahead of him. And looking there, you can see Avery Walker in that Audi. We're going to hop on with, looks like Christian Gomez. There is Avery Walker, you see. So coming across the line, guys, this is 3rd place, 4th place, and 5th place in this race. And perhaps a couple incident points there. Matthew Norberg with some fouls to give. He's going to try and break that draft. He's going to maybe even give a slowdown back as I tried to watch there. But FIU now picks up that 4th position.
Yeah, so he ran a little bit wide there in turn 10 and ran wide enough that iRacing deemed it necessary to have him get a 1.5 second slowdown penalty. back. So he drops back one position. Not too bad, actually. I would expect worse from that. If you're going to take that penalty, though, might as well make it count. If you know that you're going to run wide, just plant that throttle and accept it. You'll have to give that time back eventually, so might as well take as much as you can. So that's going to promote Christian Gomez actually up into the up into third. So that would be another podium for Christian Gomez. My pick to win. Parker Eaton not looking so hot right now with that mistake there in turn 10. So Sean Villandia and Sean Campbell ways up the field. Sean Campbell 4 seconds in front of Sean Villandia. So that's an excellent lead, I would say, for the Randolph College machine. Villandia's got a lot of work to do if he's going to want to catch that one up. And now onto our screens, Josh, a guy that we are a pretty big fan, I think, of the paints that Robert Morris University puts on these cars. We've got Nicholas Patinella for you.
And Nicholas Patinella, yeah, he's been with us in this new season. Robert Morris fielding, guys, a very strong field, 3 to 4 cars every race, and data analytics major for Nicholas here, but a long-time hockey goaltender. Jarrett, you might know something about that. Big F1 fan and a little bit well-traveled. Even races a little bit at Pittsburgh Internationals track. So, guys, yet another driver who is no stranger to their local road tracks around them. So pretty exciting to see doing well here. And that's Nicholas Patinella. And Robert Morris University, guys, I think they're going to be a name that we say continually throughout this Season 3.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very much looking forward to following that team and what they can do here in this series. But for now, your leader is still Sean Campbell, Sean Villandia in second place, Avery Walker in third overall, but leading the alumni battle at the moment. His closest contender is going to be Rahul Bolaneni, who is down there in overall 12th position. So if Avery makes no mistakes, I think he's going to have a pretty clean ride the rest of this race. Christian Gomez for FIU is in third position for the students, which is fourth overall. Parker Eaton just behind, still trying to keep his Porsche on the road, and how he is under attack, Josh, from Clemson University.
Clemson University, that Porsche going to make a move here. Matthew Norberg. We've seen Matthew Norberg with some proper race craftsmanship and being able to hold that car where he wants. He's going to be put to the test now. That's Kyle Bonin looking out just under that Porsche rear wing. These Porsches pretty popular after this update. You mentioned it, but going down into the final sector, these guys, you're going to see that wide track open up. In fact, maybe not a mistake, a third car here entering the chat, but coming across the line. Pretty good runs, gaps starting to open up. Maybe not the exit that Kyle wanted for the University of Clemson or Clemson University, but going back here, we're going to dive into turn 1 and make that long run, guys. We see turn 3 is coming up. That's where we see a lot of these moves.
Yeah, the Virginia machine was Thomas Toomey there coming onto the backside of that battle. Toomey was super quick, and a lot of the practices leading up to this one, also taking the top time in quite a few of them, but dropped down to 6th or 8th, I believe, actually, in the qualifying. So not quite the starting position that he may have wanted, but he may have gone for more of a race strategy setup instead of a full quali setup in that car. But he's got a good position right now underneath the wing of that Clemson University machine. He may try to make a move down here into turn 4. He's looking to that inside for a moment. It's going to make him defend. Kyle Bonin defended the inside. That's going to compromise his exit here. We'll see if Toomey can get a good exit off turn 4. It doesn't quite look like he was able to capitalize that, so he's going to have to tuck back in line for a moment into turn 5 and try to keep that McLaren alive for another day. But Toomey is a guy that has plenty of pace left in that car, and I know he's trying to make his way up further in that field.
Toomey with pace and patience, always a very measured personality. You can see that's Parker Eaton, misspoke earlier, driving that NC State car. Still a Wolfpack machine, trying to get through it. He loves this battle behind him, but he's having trouble getting away. And I'll tell you who has the hard job here is Clemson University. Being in the middle, trying to make the right decisions. A little bit off that apex right there. That's going to lit that McLaren. You see with those flames out the back catch up. And you see right there, yeah, not far behind in that mirror. As a driver, you're looking down there. You see that big smiling McLaren behind you. It's time to go.
Yeah, and it gets nice and big in that rear view camera. That is not a sight you want to see. That McLaren is tucked up really close over this bumper. I think we're going to have a battle here into turn 3. Kyle choosing to defend that inside early, taking away that option from the McLaren. The McLaren's going to have to send it around the outside. Very hard move to do, but it is possible here if you can be ultra late on the brakes. He's going to choose to do the over-under, but doesn't quite make it to the apex. Gets a great launch off the exit, though, Thomas Toomey does. He's going to choose the inside going down here into turn 4. Let's see how close he can make it before they get to the braking zone. Not quite in front of his front axle, but nice side-by-side action into the corner, gets it turned in nice and early. Gonna have to check up a little bit there on the exit because he carried a lot of speed into that corner, and it's gonna get the move done. Clemson University down one spot, and University of Virginia up one spot into 6th place.
Chasing those flames, Clemson University back on the gas. Coming through here, guys. We're only a third of the way through this race. Feels like we've been at it forever, but trying to get through here, action-packed absolutely from start to finish. And that's going to be the University of Virginia powering through. That's a position for them. But look who has escaped just for the time being. That was the NC State machine. Looking now, you're seeing the Embry-Riddle machine, who is also pursuing Clemson University's Justin Roberts. And I think that you see there Matthew Nordberg from NC State running a very similar paint scheme to Parker Eaton we saw earlier. So again, in the middle, a little bit of a sandwich is Alex Jensen for Embry-Riddle University.
Yeah, a bit of a sandwich indeed. And Clemson University with a strong field, a strong team as well. Kyle Bonin, the lead car for that Clemson pack. Justin Roberts, and then I think Egan Johnson is the third car in that Clemson University team right now. But Alex Jensen's got some work to do. He's got 10th place secured right now for the time being. Matthew Nordberg not quite close enough to challenge for that top 10 spot. If he can clear Justin Roberts, that would be a great thing, because remember, the points this year are different, or sorry, this season are different in such a way that a win or a higher finishing position is almost exponentially better than the next one down. So whereas the old point structure didn't quite reward a win or a second place or third quite as much, this new point structure very closely follows the IndyCar point structure, as a matter of fact, as we see Wisconsin trying to get onto the tail of Worcester Polytechnic. So Alexander Klank has got Ted Burns to follow him right now, the two of the fastest guys in this field down here in 12th and 13th. And didn't think I would see these guys down here, but of course we saw that white McLaren have a minor spin there in turn 4 earlier, about 10 minutes ago at this point.
Yeah, Ted has been maybe climbing up, and then we know that Clank has been trying to work hard and get up there, has been trying to get through traffic safely. Guys, it's good to be fast, but Clank is alive rather than with some of those guys out behind the garage that we've seen. So sometimes you play the hand you're dealt. Getting back on now with FIU. I believe that is Christian Gomez. We'll wait for a number on the side of that car. It is the 65 machine. Christian Gomez now in the middle here, where you see Parker Eaton, NC State, in front, and then you got Virginia, and I want to say that is Thomas Toomey. Guys, Thomas Toomey traded in the SimiCube now for the G29 in the dorm room, and is inside VR as well. So a little bit of a space saver setup. As you see a little bit of a flash, that is your Virginia car. That is Avery Walker, who actually, John, has made that Audi quite fast and consistent this race.
Yeah, it sure looks like it. His times are right up there with the leaders, and so despite that 5-second gap back to UCLA and then another 4 seconds back to Virginia, that Audi is still quite quick. We see Clemson University in 7th position right now with 16 penalty points. That's going to be 16 off tracks or a number of contacts with other cars. So if he gets one more, he will have to take a drive-through penalty. So Kyle Bonin is really under the gun now to keep that McLaren, or sorry, not keep the McLaren, I think he's in the Porsche, keep that Porsche on the road as much as he can. But that's going to be a tricky one with over half the race distance left to go. That may gift a spot to Cohen Evans, I think, at some point in this race. And actually, he probably may fall down a fair away in this field, because it's probably going to be about 20 to 25 seconds to go through the pit lane. So I would imagine that pops him down, maybe still in the top 20, but only just for that lead Clemson car. But meanwhile, Christian Gomez running a clean race with only 3X, and Sean Valandia in second place running an even cleaner race with 1X penalty right now, or sorry, 1X instant points. So only one off-track instant for the UCLA team up to this point.
Yeah, it is, and you mentioned Kyle. You said it before I could. The implications of that penalty, should he get 17, one more off track. We'll also say Justin Roberts, also Clemson University. Maybe it's a Clemson thing to run a little hard around this Red Bull ring, because both those guys at risk with over half the race to go. As we see Thomas Toomey look into the inside, but can he get it done? Maybe lost a little bit of momentum. Yeah, I think Christian Gomez is going to cover that off, but he's going to have to defend here. Going to be an opportunity for Toomey down to the inside. Can he carry the momentum and get down on these rumble strips? You see the flames out the back of that McLaren, and the University of Virginia looking for a way around FIU now with a little bit of breathing room, going to go down into the final sector and separated by about a car length. But before there, certainly want to keep on track. In fact, I say that 17X for Kyle Bonin, guys. So that's going to be a one drive-through for that Clemson University driver.
So that's going to promote Justin Roberts to be the leading Clemson car. It looks like Kyle Bonin choosing to continue on this lap. He will have to serve that penalty pretty soon here, though. But Thomas Toomey looking really racy in that McLaren. Christian Gomez maybe under fire a little bit from that Virginia machine. And he tried to make that overtake happen coming out of turn 4 through turn 5 and into turn 6, but it just quite wasn't happening. I say that. And, man, I keep jinxing Toomey every time I say his name, Josh. I need to quit focusing on him so much because every time I say his name, he seems to make a small mistake of some kind. That one was in turn 1 there, unfortunately running a little bit wide. But either way, that turn 6 overtake is always going to be a difficult one. It's really hard to get the car slowed down, and it has no camber in that corner that's going to help you. So we see Sean Campbell in that new BMW for that team running a little bit wide there on the exit of turn 4, just kicking up a little bit of gravel on the exit as he goes through turn 6 right now, gets right on top of that apex curb, just keeps it inbounds there on the exit, doesn't put in any more steering angle than what he has to make the corner. That is how you keep the tires intact and how you find speed around pretty much any race circuit, but definitely this one especially. And, you know, Jarrett, we're just shy of half race distance at this point. Anybody surprising you so far in this race? Anybody catching your eye?
I mean, Avery Walker's quietly been just a great racer all season long, so it really shouldn't come as a surprise that he's in third, but he's having a great race in the Audi, which we don't really see all that much here in the CIL, so I think it's great to see the wide variety of cars. We don't see the Ferrari completely overpowering the field either here tonight, which I think myself is a little surprising that we only have 2 guys driving that new Ferrari here tonight. Josh?
Yeah, you know, the Ferrari, as all iRacing content, a cool $15 sometimes keeps out of the buyer's circle. Looks like we're going to catch up here with Alex Clank, Worcester Polytechnic, and then that's going to be the Wisconsin machine. Oh, big trouble there. That is Cohen Evans. Cohen Evans' Porsche was parked right, John, on what must be the fastest exit on this racetrack. Cohen Evans sideways. He locked it down. That car didn't really turn off, and before he could move, yeah, you can't go forward there because those cars are coming. And then, did not get the call there. Worcester Polytechnic. That'll be a faster pair for those team guys. They'll come back and tell about it. But big moment right there, and that battle, it looks like, is going to go to the Wisconsin car. Ted Burns is going to grab that spot, guys.
Looks like Cohen maybe just grabbed that early downshift there into turn 10 because it looked like that car had a lot of rotation really early in that corner. So either he just, cranked that brake bias. Man, still struggling with it. I'll get it eventually, I promise. Brake bias back pretty far, or he grabbed that downshift into second or third gear pretty early, and that really helped to rotate that car into that corner almost too much, I would say. And as we see another Lamborghini actually on my screen, Jarrett's kind of spinning out into pit lane, trying to make his way down there. We've got a bit of a battle at the moment. So, yeah, this is that Lamborghini I was mentioning. Andrew Burrell for Clemson University going to take turn 9 here on the inside. Not quite touch the curb, just spins it a little bit there, mid-corner. A lot of rotation in these cars we're seeing, actually, Josh, at some of these corners. Not quite expecting to see so many mistakes. I think guys are still getting to grips with these new tires.
Well, I think they are, and when we were doing practice, I spent most of my time in the Lamborghini. As you see some of these guys, maybe inspired by that faster pair coming down. You see that is Alexander Clank, Worcester Polytechnic. Looks like getting off turn 3, guys. A little bit of a battle here. FIU in the middle, didn't expect that. That's the Bison. Sorry, that is not. That is the University. Thomas Toomey from the University of Virginia moving to the inside. Going to defend. Gomez going to defend. Going to whip to the inside. Room given by Virginia, but he'll have the momentum off the corner. That Porsche now of FIU to the inside, going to have to defend Clemson University. That's Kyle Bonin going through now. Sector 2, it's going to be a left, and then a left, and then a right, and then into Sector 3, and these guys trying to figure themselves out. It's now a sandwich of FIU in the middle. Christian Gomez checking his windshield and his mirror.
Yeah, Thomas Toomey making that one stick expertly. All guys given enough space around the outside and on the inside, unlike what sometimes we see in Formula One nowadays. These guys are absolutely given enough space, so we're getting some clean racing action here up towards the front of the field. Kyle Bonin trying to hang on to that position, but I think he still has that drive-through penalty, or maybe that will turn into a stop-go penalty at the pit stop. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to check the rule book on that one. But Christian Gomez might be starting to wear those tires a little bit right now. It seems like his pace has dropped off, and I expected him to keep Toomey behind him for a little bit longer, but that has not been the case yet. And he's got Kyle Bonin to contend with now as we come into turn 3.
Yeah, down into turn 3, it's the long run here. Porsche going to have a little bit of draft and a big momentum going deep to the inside. Maybe not making the apex. Yeah, contact there. Gibbs and Door was alongside. That's going to be a racing incident. But Clemson University muscling their way past. And this battle still underway, not over. John, I would interest in your discussion later for that move. But down we go into turn 4. And Gomez, we know he gets fired up, is not going to let that one go. He'll stay on the outside. He's got the advantage going into Sector 2.
Yeah, I think that contact there was a little bit inevitable, as Gomez is still going to have the advantage going into turn 6 and going to keep that position for the time being. But when you've got a car on the inside that's going to come in so hot, you cannot turn into the corner yet, even though it may be your right to. So I think a little bit of a racing incident, maybe misjudged from Gomez, maybe a little bit too hot on the brakes from Kyle. But, you know, at the end of the day, they both survived to live another day, and they're both still maintaining the position on track for the time being. So no worse for it, just about a 1.8 second gap in front to Thomas Toomey to try to close down now. But if they keep being racy like that, they're not going to get there. And so they will be no higher than 6th or 7th when this race finishes.
Yeah, we know that Kyle Bonin at least would have that drive-through. Not sure if he served that. In fact, I think he would not have served that. Not in the top 10 anyways. Looks like we're going to follow Matthew Nordberg. NC State starting to come in. Guys, I think some of these guys are in their pit window. They've decided they want to pick up that fast repair, or they want to get something done. You can see Nick Trollman there, and then Hagen Johnson. You see the 7 car coming in. That's going to be in your AMG Mercedes for Clemson. Speaking of Clemson, Justin Roberts trying to defend, going to give room to Embry Riddle coming up the inside. Embry Riddle, Alex Jensen, a little bit aggressive this race. He's going to get it done. That AMG is going to drive off the corner. Who will have the advantage going down into turn 4? Looks like it's going to be Embry Riddle for now.
Yeah, that Embry Riddle machine looking really great this race, making some really excellent overtakes, and has the position secured down into turn 4. Maybe defends a little bit more than what he otherwise has to, but that's not going to be an issue for him. He can keep that position going down through turn 5 and into turn 6. And Ted Burns has now joined the conversation now and has Justin Roberts just in front of him. Ted Burns has a lot of ground to make up if he's going to make it all the way up there to Avery Walker. Ted currently occupying the 2nd position for the alumni in that white Wisconsin machine, that McLaren spitting flames out there on the downshifts. We're on board now with Ted Burns as he's trying to keep it inbounds there just about on the exit of turn 7 into turn 9 now. Going to take up a lot of space there on the outside. That Ferrari getting slowed up a little bit more than maybe Ted was expecting. I think Ted checked up quite a bit there into 3rd gear. Ferrari's got a lot of rotation. Ted's going to be able to take this position into turn 1.
He's going to look, but it'll be side-by-side drag race down into turn 1. McLaren with the position, but sometimes we see that the momentum can be carried on the outside. Ted, a fair racer, expect room to be given here. Also, fair racing, going to give the position. Everybody lives through that corner. But tough turn 1, I thought they might do side-by-side, but we all agreed on the marching order. You see NC State now with Parker Eaton. So NC State strategy, both cars in, both cars with fuel. Going to be no tires here. Not expecting any of these GT3 cars to take tires for this race. Going to be fuel only for all these cars. That is Kyle Bonin continuing to work on Christian Gomez. Looks like he's going to get it done. So this battle continuing to unfold, maybe unfolding several times here in the span of several laps.
Yeah, so that was Parker Eaton we saw on the pit lane there. So that's promoted Thomas Toomey for now to that final student podium position. We'll see if that Virginia machine can win enough time back there in the pit stop phase to maybe claim that position for good. But that remains to be seen. Still Kyle Bonin defending a little bit from Christian Gomez, but Gomez working that Porsche really hard trying to maintain that gap in front. But Alex Jensen's 10 seconds behind, so these guys don't really have too much to worry about from being under attack from any other cars at the moment, but they just got to keep it clean and on track. We know Kyle Bonin had quite a few instant points earlier on. Christian Gomez much cleaner at the moment and keeping it on track far more often than that Clemson machine. Clemson taking quite a few risks right now with 36 minutes under our belts in this race so far, and so You know, we're at lap 25, probably another 15 laps or so to go, maybe a few more than that. Nordberg on the radio there chatting with his NC State buddies and trying to figure out what strategy is going to get them in the front to win this race.
Yeah, and you saw Nordberg there actually talking a little bit with the drivers around him, trying to understand who is faster and who can go. Nordberg may be a brain play, trying to understand if he can benefit from following some of these guys, picking up a tow, saving some fuel. He would have taken his pit stop already, but not to say that's not part of the NC State strategy. So North Carolina State trying to get to the end of this one. Little over third left. It's about 20 minutes left to go. And you see now Sean Campbell just under 10 seconds ahead, guys. He said he felt like the BMW would be strong and he wanted to try it out. It looks like it's working for him, and it looks like that he has understood the setup in the car enough to get it around the Red Bull ring a few times, and we'll have to see when he pits. Oh, looks like Sean Valandia, my pick to be on top of the podium, trying to get around traffic there. I believe that is University of Lynchburg. As he tries to go through, the Bruins are going to march down into turn 1. And this is your P3 overall. Avery Walker from the University of Virginia continuing to give the Cavaliers a good showing. And guys putting that Audi up there.
Yeah, you know, Josh Jarrett, with the way that Sean Campbell was talking about the BMW coming into this race, you know, he felt pretty confident with that pick, and it's showing right now. But at the end of the day, I think whatever car Sean Campbell picks, he's going to be pretty quick, and we've seen him be successful in the McLaren. We saw him successful in the GTE cars. Last season, when he joined mid-season, he started dominating almost instantly, and a 10-second lead with over 20 minutes left to go. That does not happen often in this series. It's an ultra-competitive field out there. A lot of fast guys. Campbell just might be his day today, though.
Yeah, there you go. And Sean Campbell in position, in control, right, has the ability now to save a little fuel, to control his tires, make sure he's not overheating his tires. He has no pressure here, as we see on board, looking back from the McLaren to the Mercedes of Alex Jensen, Embry Riddle, so riding on board with Ted Burns in that McLaren. And he does have a little bit of a ways to go to get to the FIU machine, but we know he's got the pace if he is able to continue that. I will notice, John, so I'm going to take note that the flames from the back of that McLaren are going to be unburned fuel, generally from deceleration or not being on throttle. And if I'm using those flames, it looks like he maybe picked up the throttle a little bit later than I would have going around that corner. Now, that's not to say that could have picked it up a little bit earlier, but trying to pay attention to see how Ted Burns gets around that second sector where it's so easy to be loose.
Yeah, if there's one guy to watch, to learn from, it's going to be Ted Burns. Not only is he a master at driving the cars, he's also a master at setting up the cars, both in the real world and in the sim. Now, I mentioned he was a race engineer a little bit earlier in the broadcast. That Wisconsin machine currently inheriting the first place position in the alumni from Avery Walker. We just saw choose to take his pit stop. He's going through the pit exit right now, but I think he will re-inherit that first position and back from Ted Burns after the pit stops all cycle through. So for the time being, it is still Sean Campbell, your leader, 10 seconds in front of UCLA. Sean Valandia got a good gap behind as well to Thomas Toomey at the moment, 6-second gap there. But reminder, I think it was Parker Eaton that pitted well before Thomas Toomey has. Thomas Toomey still yet to pit in this race, so at the moment, I think it's Parker Eaton that on overall pace, net pace, let's say, will inherit that third position. Kyle Bonin for Clemson in the fourth position, and then Christian Gomez in fifth. All these guys up there still have yet to pit. I think that we're not too far off.
Yeah, it will come down. I think we see, in fact, you see the Bruins coming down pit road right now. And we are going to get to the end of that pit window about 45 minutes or 50 minutes into the 60-minute race. Also, the McLaren of Thomas Toomey coming down. So these guys saving fuel. And then you can see that is FIU coming down also for service.
So we'll see where these guys feed out here. Jarrett's going to have to give us the stats a little later on the race off pit lane to see who was able to save a bit of fuel, if anything, during the course of this race, but not as many opportunities as there was at Daytona for fuel saving, as Sean Campbell continues his dominant streak here out there in first position. Gets a good amount of rotation actually there on the exit. I got to try that setup in that BMW. That car looks like it is a beast out there at the moment. Another AMG down. John Tyndall choosing to take his opportunity to come into the pits and get a fresh batch of fuel into the tank of that car. Nobody's going to go for tires, I think, Josh. These tires seem to be pretty stable at this point. In fact, Ted Burns set his fastest lap only 10 laps ago, and the lap times have been pretty consistent since that point. His last lap by was only 5 thousandths worse than his, or sorry, 15 thousandths worse than his best time overall. But Cohen Evans has, I think is that Thomas Toomey just in front, as we do see Campbell come down the pit lane. I don't think that was actually Toomey. I think that was another McLaren. I'm mistaken. Is that a Clemson machine? No, that is Toomey. I saw it right the first time. I shouldn't doubt myself with that one. But Avery Walker now behind Thomas Toomey. That is a change, I think, from what we saw earlier.
Yeah, that is. They're working up, and teammates there, alumni and students. So coming through, and you can be sure they're in communication, sharing secrets, and pushing each other to be their best. And we saw Thomas Toomey getting through and getting around. He's going to be somebody else that we watch all season long. We've seen Virginia be fast and have pace. We know that Thomas is going to be quick, and Thomas is very consistent. So coming up through the front of the field, you can see Sean Campbell now re-entering, so has taken that pit stop. Ted Burns, the current overall leader, but is going to be having to save a little bit of fuel and then come down shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Josh, you know, something I noticed just a moment ago is Parker Eaton is now behind Thomas Toomey on track, so both have made their pit stops, and they have swapped positions effectively. So staying out longer, going through the overcut method is going to benefit Thomas Toomey tonight here. So Parker Eaton is going to be just over 2 seconds, I think, behind Thomas Toomey. But you know who Thomas Toomey has behind him to help defend from Parker Eaton? A man with nothing to lose as far as the Students' Championship goes. It's going to be Avery Walker, the other Virginia driver. So he may get a little bit of help here tonight from his teammates. Some strategy playing out as the Virginia machine takes the position. I think they're from a lapped car. I want to say that would be the Robert Morris University. I think there was a little bit over a rotation there on the apex for Robert Morris. That McLaren is going to get stuck there on the apex of turn 4. But yeah, Avery Walker might give a little bit of help, I think, to Toomey.
Yes, sir. A little bit of teamwork there. You see Robert Morris University. That's Nick Patnella going down into the corner. He'll get on the brakes. We talked about this corner. Loads up the car. It rotates. And right there on the curb, very easy to do that. Looks like another car slipping through. So he'll get that car, had got that car, turned around, pointed it in the right direction. In fact, we're going to look at Parker Eaton now. Again, getting into the very same corner. And he will come through. You see Kyle Bonin. Yeah, just avoiding that car maybe with some internet quality work there, but yeah, he'll work through. And these guys, we follow along with Avery Walker now, back in that Audi, making that Audi very fast.
Yeah, and Ted Burns has since come down into pit lane, so he's going to shuffle back down into second place, has finished his pit stop. Jared, I'm going to ask for some pit statistics here in a moment to see if that was what made the difference for Thomas Toomey over Parker Eaton. I think is what I'm most curious in. But yeah, for the moment, Sean Campbell, 14-second lead just about over Sean Delandia, almost unheard of. You know, Josh, I'm trying to remember how much Kevin Vu won the very first CIL race by. I think it was over Ted Burns and myself, or it might have been in that order or not, but it was probably a pretty similar margin either way.
I do remember that, and yourself, P2, very close together. But yeah, very firm win there for Kevin Vu and University of California school system there. And then it's going to be another firm performance here. Should nothing change, we say that 15 minutes to go, anything can happen. Maybe we can take a look at incident points to understand how these guys are playing with the boundaries of the track. But nonetheless, Sean Campbell now almost 14 seconds up, performing very well for Randolph.
Yeah, so John, you mentioned the pit difference between Toomey and Eaton. Thomas Toomey actually spent 3 seconds longer on pit lane than his counterpart Parker Eaton, but the difference in the pit box itself, almost 2 seconds. So interesting there between those two drivers.
Okay, that is interesting indeed. I guess Thomas Toomey just must have made up most of that time on track then at that point. So very well done, I would say, from Thomas Toomey, who is currently running in third and again has his teammate behind him, the alumni of Avery Walker, to help defend from the charging Kyle Bonin behind. But he's got a 5-second gap in front. He's really mostly under attack, I would say, from Parker Eaton. I think he came out in front of Parker Eaton and has since made his way around. I'll have to double check the race lap info, but I believe that Parker Eaton was in front of him just before that. We see some other cars off the track. That's going to be the Michigan Tech machine, Rahul Bolaneni, getting it wrong at turn 9, unfortunately. Let's see if that was all on his own or if he had some help with the Lamborghini behind. Looks like it's going to be all on his own. Doesn't even get to the curb, doesn't even quite get to the apex, but too much rotation on the entry to that, so that might just be holding the brake a little bit too long there with a little bit too much steering angle. Got to keep the car balanced on the entry to turn 9, especially a big risky corner for that to happen. He's going to rejoin the track in 18th position overall, with Carl Lemkool in front of him, but a good 12 seconds off the road.
Yeah, nothing like a little bit of clean road to see. And a late move, very late move there from Christian Gomez inside Nathaniel Wiley. That's Southern New Hampshire University. And I think Christian Gomez thought maybe he was going to give him the room or fair play there, but not so much there. And now under attack, if maybe not on the same lap number, from the Ford, St. Louis University, that is Carl Lemkool. We saw him in his motion rig. We saw him in VR. He's got a full view of that Porsche right there, but a little bit of miscommunication from those drivers.
Yeah, indeed. And Josh, you're going to have to remind me, what happened to Gomez? Why is he down there at 16th right now? Do you remember by chance?
So Gomez did have, and this was unconfirmed, maybe a black flag getting into the pits, whether he got in a little bit fast or was declared for an unsafe entry, but a very strong performance from Christian Gomez, tacked on to a rehash there for FIU and Panther Esports trying to get there. So Luis Diaz in 13th will be currently your front runner there for Panther Esports. As you saw, that was Carl Lemkool in the motion rig on your screen. And we're going to go on now with that is the 65 and getting back here to Christian Gomez. We're going to jump around a little bit. Again, trying to get around. This is just costing time now, this 25 machine. Not sure if he's defending or just driving his line, and maybe 65 does not quite have the juice right now in that Porsche. But nonetheless, not the time you want to give up if you're Christian Gomez.
Yeah, definitely no. Kind of a half-hearted move here up the inside. Kind of came off the brake pedal, and I think it's going to stay in front, actually, as they exit the corner. Bit of a surprise that move worked out. I think Nathaniel saw that one coming and chose not to defend it too aggressively, and I think that was wise from him. I think that would have ended in contact had he tried to do that. So very aggressive moves now from Gomez as he's trying to make up those lost positions. But, you know, guys, we talk about sometimes how, you know, you can save a 10th here, a 10th there over the course of a lap, as we see Justin Roberts now with Parker Eaton on the inside of him into turn 1. Can Parker get this move done? Blinks out, blinks back in. Internet problems a little bit for Parker Eaton, but he looks like he's able to maintain that position and probably going to able to hold on to it through turn 3. But as I was saying earlier, the pit stop is really where you can save a lot of time. You might, you know, risk it a little bit over the course of a lap and try to save a 10th in each corner, but if you can save a full second and a half in a pit box phase, then that's a much easier way of finding track time. But unfortunately for Christian Gomez, just maybe a little bit too hot into the pits and comes up with a penalty from that. But got to be on the edge everywhere, guys, and every little bit counts.
It does count, and we see these guys attack the pit lane all the time in the iRacing software, trying to meter who is behaving. So you see now, this is Luis Diaz, local spike ball player, trying to work on Cohen Evans from PUI. And in fact, this is 76, so that will be Matthew Nordberg coming around Sector 2, as you saw a car turned around there. Maybe an NC State car. That would be Parker Eaton, NC State. So not a good move. We just saw some firm racecraft there. Oh, it looks like a little bit of touch. So the ACC battle rages on between Clemson and North Carolina State, and those guys are not able to come to agreement.
That one, I think that one may go under review in the steward's booth here in a moment, but Parker Eaton unfortunately bumped down to 11th position right now, which I think is 9th in the students as it runs, but Justin Roberts I think was the culprit there in that Ferrari for Clemson.
Yes, sir, that is correct. Justin Roberts from Clemson. Saw him at Daytona, has the pace, but, we're getting down. We're inside 10 minutes to go, guys. Drivers are all seeing what their positions are, and that there's not as much strategy now. The strategy is to go, and that's what Justin tried to do late on the brakes. Maybe he thought he was going to try and get a run into the second sector, but alas, was not able to do so and keep that much momentum up. So, moving on now, we can see this is Cohen Evans, IUPUI, trying to go down, right down into turn 4. And then we see Christian Gomez in that 65 machine, actually the 28 machine. So, Luis Diaz we are following on board with. And FIU trying to chase down. We can see also in 28th position, I think Nick Trollman there in that Mercedes just ahead of this battle. A couple of Porsches. We talked about handling quite well for these drivers. They're able to understand what their car is doing. We talked about the grip that was mentioned. So with 8 minutes to go, Jarrett, what are we thinking for the final 8 minutes, and who are we seeing? No spoilers that I think we're expecting Sean Campbell to run quite strongly, but who else are we seeing in this mid-pack, and which way do we think these battles are going to fall?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's going to be tough to make up 16 seconds in just under 8 minutes to go. So I think just keep it on track, keep it straightforward for Sean Campbell. It's the strategy to go. The biggest battle on track right now is Cohen Evans and Luis Diaz right there. You see them on your screen. Everyone else, bit of gap in between each of them. And I think that's sometimes hard in these longer races, this 1 hour long race, to keep that focus up when maybe you're not battling a guy for position and things just start to flow. And I think that can be a challenge for some guys, so just keeping it up and watch those gaps on the left side of your screen. Maybe someone drops off a little bit here at the end, but you guys mentioning it in the chat, Ted Burns having a great recovery run here. We saw him have a little incident there earlier. He's all the way back to 6th overall, so great run for the 081 car.
A great run indeed for Ted Burns. This is what we've come to expect from that man. But to your earlier comment, Jarrett, where if you've got no cars around you to battle with, then you might lose focus. I can speak to that one personally because I've had that happen to me in quite a few races. Maybe I make a mistake early on. I know this happened actually at Monza in the pilot season where I had a pretty big mistake there in the second chicane. And I thought my race was done for, but I kept with it and tried to keep my focus as best I could. I think I wound up with a podium after that one. So not all hope can be lost, actually. But, with 6 minutes to go, that may or may not be the case here. Sean Campbell 16 seconds ahead, as you said, on your screen right now, picking up a little bit of dirt, taking that shortest line possible through these corners and doing a great job up there. All these guys out there, if they're not watching back his replay and learning from him, they're doing something wrong, unfortunately. Sean Campbell just absolutely dominating out there.
Sean Campbell, indeed. And we talked about recovery races. We talked about Clemson's Kyle Bonin picking up those over 17 incident points and making a second trip down pit road. But, or maybe he's given that time back on pit road, but nonetheless is up to 5th overall in that Porsche free and clear. That will be a solid performance. You did see Justin Roberts on your tower being able to pull through pit road. That would have been serving the penalty given by the stewards for that maneuver there entering turn 4. Right here you see the two Porsches remain at it. Luis Diaz getting after it here on IUPUI, a little bit shallower run. He'll have a good run down into Sector 2. John?
Yeah, down into Sector 2 indeed. Love watching these Porsches battle it out. Cohen Evans and Luis Diaz. So Luis got a lot of work to do actually in that Porsche to close up this gap. They've got just under 5 minutes left, and he's about 4.5 tenths back right now from Cohen Evans. I think Cohen was involved in that earlier instant. I think he had it spun maybe on the exit turn 10. I might be thinking of something else, but I'm pretty sure that was Cohen Evans, which is why he's down here in 11th right now. But Luis still on that tail, trying to capitalize on that draft. That's going to come into play more here on the straight down into turn 1 and then up to turn 3 more than anywhere. We'll see if the Panther Esports team can get it done here in the closing stages and try to steal away a top 10, or sorry, no, that would be for 11th, but that would be definitely for a top 10 in the students category. Cohen running a little bit wide there on turn 1, just going to get away with that, or just about. FIU not quite close enough to challenge into turn 3. Josh, this battle probably not over yet, though. I bet this one's going to go down the line.
Going down to the line. We know these guys talk about load cell pedals.
Whoa.
Deep move into 3. It's going to be a late move from Diaz. He will go, but he stays off the IUPUI machine, very close to that Jaguar on the side, and he's going to pull off. So about the same gap that we've seen, but cheeky move from Luis, but I like the hustle, if not the decision-making there. So all cars continue. No penalties to worry about. But FIU going to continue to try to make a move and get very close to that gravel IUPUI on the exit of that turn. Here, the cars, guys, going to have worn tires, very light on the fuel load in these Porsches. Driver's taking a little bit of a shallow line into that corner, John, but IUPUI now actually stretching that gap. Cohen Evans deciding he doesn't want to spend so much time back there. He wants to go.
Oh, Luis a little bit wide in turn 7. I think found the gravel on the outside, still trying to rejoin the track. Christian Gomez, his teammate, is coming up fast from behind. That 4-second, 5-second, 2-second gap, he's going to come flying by here into turn 9. I think Luis knows that he's going to have to give up that position. So just a little bit too much speed through the corner, picked up the throttle a little bit too early, and then found the gravel. And now that battle is no more. So Cohen Evans is going to hang on to that 11th spot. So now we've got FIU nose to tail, 11th and 12th position. Not the kind of result the FIU team was hoping for here tonight, Josh.
No, it wouldn't be, and we know that the FIU team is quite motivated to take that, to do a good job, and they will be back, no doubt. But a learning experience perhaps tonight for that team. And so going back to your leader, Sean Campbell, a good note that not surprising to see him up there as his team, Neon Racing. In fact, you see a little bit of support on the side of that machine when he comes in your camera view, as we have a couple of, well, we have a Mercedes and we have Worcester Polytechnic. That is Alexander Clank trying to pounce here as we get ready to take the white flag. So probably a lap and a half left for these guys. And so we said Neon Racing, you see the side there, champions of the VRS Global Endurance Series, a series of 6 24-hour races here on iRacing. And congratulations to those guys. Sean actually running a large portion of those laps for that team. So skilled guys, patience, no surprise that he's going to make it focused for an hour here.
Yeah, no surprise indeed, but this race is not over yet for some other drivers in this field. Embry Riddle is going to have to defend from WPI as we head into, I think, might be the last lap of this race. And so Embry Riddle in 7th right now, trying to hang on to that position. A couple other cars making their way through. This is Neon Esports coming home, I think, to take the white flag actually now. I think I misspoke just a moment ago. But either way, it looks like Embry Riddle's got about a 3/10 lead. That is the only battle, I think, that's happening on the track at the moment. WPUI getting really close to the back of that Embry Riddle machine. Embry Riddle defended down to the inside. This is going to be down towards turn 4. I believe going to have to be a big defense from that AMG. We know it's good on the brakes. Can he keep it there? He just about can, but Alexander Clank running around the outside, gets in the gravel. That is going to end that battle. I don't think he can close that gap back down, Josh.
No, I don't think so. It would be a superhuman feat at that gap. That is correct. The InnoVetted white flag now underway. Your leader approaching turn 3, but we stick with this for now, and that is your leader there approaching turn 3. Alexander Clank in the gravel. Not sure he would need a mistake from the Embry Riddle machine to close that gap. So a solid performance there, but pretty difficult for those guys to catch up. And we know, John, that corner, we've seen action there all night long. No surprise that that was a deciding factor. You see now Carl Lemkuhl pulling out outside the 9 car. That is Esteban Munoz from Florida International University, also a part of Panther Esports. As we go along here, your leader now in sector 2, just approaching. This is going to be Sean Campbell, Randolph Community College, and a little bit of a slide there, but he'll keep it in check. I'm sure he's getting his money worth out of those tires. I'm also sure they're in pretty good shape, so he'll come through. About a third of a lap to go, and about a Sunday drive to go, John, for Mr. Campbell here.
Yeah, so that's on average just about half a second a lap faster than his rivals in this race. That is unheard of. That is some seriously alien pace as he comes home to take his 2nd win in the CiL Season 3. A strong championship points lead for the Randolph team here tonight. And Sean Valandia here coming through turn 9, going to take home another second place finish for the UCLA team. So another healthy heap of points for that group as well. And then Thomas Toomey, I think, is going to break his podium duck here tonight and come home third place for Virginia. We see him duck over and give a nice little wave to the pit wall. Avery Walker is going to take home the win for the alumni. Kyle Bonin in 5th overall, 4th place in the students. So great job to the Clemson University team. And Ted Burns, how about it for Ted Burns, coming back all the way up to 6th despite his troubles tonight. What a drive from him.
Well, solid drive, and traffic, it's tough when you start out having to react in turn 4, as he did a little bit of a 180 there in that McLaren, but Wisconsin got that car turned around, hooked up 6th place overall, 2nd place in his class. Seeing here, looks like NC State, that would be Parker Eaton getting on board. In fact, maybe does he give up his position? Yes, to Cohen Evans at the line, so a little bit awkward there, but IUPUI will come home in that position. Christian Gomez talked about pit lane guys. It's part of the race. FIU will come home 12th place with that representation. Luis Diaz behind him with Nathaniel Wiley coming home for Southern New Hampshire University.
Yeah, and so I think some of our viewers may be confused as to why we saw Alexander Klink come into the pit lane technically before he had taken the checkered flag, and I've got the reason for that one. He had just picked up that last off track to hit 17, so he had to come in to the pits immediately or suffer a post-race finish time penalty, I believe was his option. So with that, I think he will only lose one position as opposed to the alternative, which would be pretty significantly worse penalty for him. So here are your final standings here. Top 10, we're going to give you real quick here. Sean Campbell for Randolph Community College is taking the win here tonight. 20 seconds over Sean Valandia for UCLA. Just nobody with an answer to that BMW up at the front. Thomas Toomey for Virginia is going to get that third place, the final podium position for Virginia. Avery Walker also for Virginia. Great night for the Virginia team, taking home the win for the alumni. Kyle Bonin in 5th position for Clemson University. Had a great run, maybe just a few too many instant points to really help him get to the lead of this race tonight. And then Ted Burns, great recovery for Wisconsin there in 6th overall. Alex Jensen for Embry-Riddle, saw him make a number of excellent moves over the course of the night in that AMG machine. And then Matthew Nordberg for NC State in 8th. Cohen Evans for IUPUI able to hold on to 9th position. And then Christian Gomez for FIU claiming a final top 10 here tonight. Not quite the result FIU was looking for, but in a field like this where you've got a very strong contention all the way up and down, it's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough, guys. And I think they found that out tonight.
Well, in full agreement, and maybe worth a note on the final step of the alumni podium. Myler De Arroyo, graduate of Brigham Young University, a D1 track and field athlete there, and he's putting it to use on the track this evening. So, John, we continue to learn. Second race, we learned at Daytona at the Red Bull Ring. We learned here this evening that these drivers are going to be staples here at the top of the field. We talked about Randolph, talked about UCLA. Right, no Simucube, no problem for Thomas Toomey, University of Virginia. I think that's a name we're going to see up front. And Kyle Bonin, Clemson University, we talked about penalties, but that's a name. Clemson we're going to see up front, and then Embry-Riddle, no stranger. So we could go down the list, but pretty exciting here, and we're starting to see these storylines develop as we complete the first third of the CIL season here.
And speaking of the CIL season, they are college students, and Sean Campbell actually had to go off and finish some homework here tonight. He's got a bunch of schoolwork, so we will not hear from the race winner. So instead, joining us first in the booth is Sean Valendia from UCLA, and a great-looking paint scheme here tonight, Sean. We heard it was your day scheme for Red Bull Ring. And how was the race out at Red Bull Ring tonight for you?
It was a pretty chill race, especially after Daytona. Yeah, I kind of just cruised the whole time. Sean got past me on like lap 2 or something. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised he qualified, third, fourth, somewhere around there. I was expecting him to completely like destroy us in quali, because I think he'd been doing that in practice. But yeah, other than that, race was fine. Lap traffic was significantly better than Daytona, and yeah.
So, congrats on second place, Sean and UCLA. So, 2 races in, 2 appearances from the McLaren. It looks good. Is that going to be the car of choice for yourself? For the end of the season, for the rest of the season, I'll say.
We'll see. I'm not too happy with how it's handling right now, especially after the season changeover into season 4. They've really done a lot of tweaks to the McLaren that make it doesn't really suit my driving style anymore. Which is actually why Sean switched to the M4. It apparently drives more like the McLaren, but it's either going to be the McLaren or the Porsche. I haven't made up my mind yet. We'll see.
Well, we'll look forward to that one. Either way, I think we're going to look forward to whatever livery comes up on that car. I think all of us up here in the booth absolutely love watching that car go around the track. Just a fantastic livery every single night. And tell me about the Red Bull Ring a little bit. This is our first time racing here in the CIL, and some guys found it not so easy, and other guys like Sean Campbell and yourself found it remarkably easy. So tell me a little bit about the track and how you approached it.
Uh, you know what? This is also my first time racing here. I only bought the track 2 days ago, I think.
Oh wow.
So I have not had a whole lot of seat time here. Um, I'm not a huge fan of this place. It seems to, I don't know, it just doesn't suit my driving style. As for traffic, it's tight. There's a few good overtaking spots, but the track. Yeah, there's some sections where you just can't overtake, like the last 2 corners. I found I was stuck behind lap traffic a few times through there. Sometimes it got kind of sketchy, sometimes not, but usually I would end up giving up quite a bit of time in that section.
Well, that car looked pretty good up front for most of the race, really all race long. Sean Valendia, anyone you want to give a shout out to here before we send you to the InnoVetted Labs podium?
Yeah. I'm obviously gonna give a shout out to my painter, who did the daytime scheme that you guys see. Um, I'd like to give a shout out to everyone on the Bruin Racing FSAE team, just because. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right, well spoken and well raced. We'll talk to you again soon there, Sean.
All right, thank you guys.
Sean Valendia coming away second place here tonight. Kind of surprising. Driver's drive, guys. And he said he had 2 days of seat time, and that was apparently all he needed.
Yeah, a guy that doesn't even like the way his car was driving and doesn't like the track and still comes away second place. I think that is the clear sign of a strong championship contender. I look forward to watching that UCLA machine work his way up at the front of most of the fields here this season.
So joining us in the booth now is our third place overall finisher, and it's Thomas Toomey, who had a exciting little race there in the 66 machine. Walk us through getting through the traffic there, Thomas. We heard from Sean just a moment ago. He said the traffic was very well behaved. We saw a bunch of good battles on track. How was your experience here tonight?
Yeah, the traffic was real difficult. In the beginning, didn't have the best qualifying. Traffic was definitely a big issue in qualifying. I was all the way back in PA, even though I know I had times to run with the top 3. So the whole race, I was kind of just sitting back, waiting for stuff to happen. I think Kyle and Christian got into each other. I was back in 8th, so I picked up 2 positions easily. Picked up another position from there on Kyle, and I know I made a little small mistake and lost it back to him. And then just had the pace throughout the whole race and slowly just started picking cars off. Kudos to the lap traffic for moving over for the leaders and for the cars on the lead lap. That was a fun one for sure.
Yeah, you ran a pretty clean race tonight, but man, you got to tell me what drove the decision to switch from the Porsche to the McLaren. I thought you were a Porsche fan up to this point. Tell me about it.
I am a Porsche fan, and I'll probably be back in that car next week. But just seeing the top 2 guys right now running the McLaren, and I know they talked about that they don't really like the changes, and I haven't had as much experience as them in the car, but I really like how stable it is. Even at the end, I could pretty much get fully flat on corner exit, not really have to roll into the throttle, and the car would just point straight. Very stable in some of the high-speed corners, although I was probably running a little higher wing angle than most of the guys. But I think for next week for 2 weeks from now for the Hockenheimring, that might be looking at the Porsche again, but McLaren was just a solid car on this track.
Yeah, right on. Well, we saw that from the running order. So congratulations on third place. We mentioned a couple times that you had moved to your dorm room there in Virginia and jumped on G29 and using a little bit of VR technology. Going off the SimuCube, I don't know if there's a bigger jump in hardware that you could make. Were you able to be as aggressive? And how do you feel, I guess, running alone and in traffic and with that setup, that hardware setup?
It's definitely a little bit more sketchy in traffic, and you can't really react as quickly. You kind of got to go off muscle memory every lap. But as long as you got the right software and the right butt kickers and stuff, it can work out. It's the cheapest wheel in the market, but even though you don't have necessarily a load cell, you can, just by knowing the right lines and knowing the correct inputs and just practicing, you can be good with really anything if you really get the practice in.
Well, I mean, we said it right there. Drivers drive, and you're no exception here tonight, Thomas. To be coming away third. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we send you on your way to the podium?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the Virginia Motorsports team and my parents who are watching this, as well as InnoVetted Labs and our sponsors as well. Much thanks to them.
All right. Well, always great talking to you. Congrats again on a great run here tonight, and I'm sure it's not the last time we'll talk to you this season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thomas Toomey in a good-looking Virginia Cavaliers car. Not to pat my own back there, but great to see you come away third here tonight. So joining us up in the booth now is going to be Avery Walker, the first of our alumni drivers. So he's going to win for the alumni category, coming away fourth overall. And Avery, just another solid race for you. We talked about it during the race. Just you're kind of quietly like a silent assassin almost, just staying out of trouble, running your race. And take us through Red Bull Ring tonight. Were there any trouble areas for you?
Well, thank you for saying I'm a silent assassin. I think in the past I've had really bad starts, and it turned into a recovery race for the rest of it, trying to get back up. So I'm glad I had no drama this time. I'd say only issues were lap traffic. There were a couple guys that, all I'll say, there were some questionable decisions for getting out of the way of the leaders, but overall, not too bad.
Yeah, congratulations. And tell us a little about your car choice. Not too many Audis out here in the field. How much practice did you get with it, and what are you doing differently to make it so fast?
Yeah, so I haven't actually verified this, but I think I might have been the only Audi in the field,
That's correct.
which surprised me because, I mean, it's as soon as I got in that car to practice, it just felt perfect on this track. The Porsche, I was getting too much oversteer, and nothing else felt as stable to me. So I just ran with it with a iRacing default low downforce setup.
That's an impressive feat. I've not found the iRacing setups to be to my liking, but glad you were able to find what works for you here tonight. And closer to the end of the race, you had Thomas Toomey just in front of you, I think, and another fellow Virginia compatriot. Did you guys have a little bit of a strategy there, saying that if it came to it, you would help him defend from the cars behind, since you had a little bit of a lead in that alumni battle?
We didn't go into it with any sort of agreement, but I don't know if you guys noticed, but he had a pretty insane undercut on me. I was like 4 seconds ahead of him when I did the pit stop, and then he came out right alongside me. Um, and I had been practicing with him all week. I knew he was faster, and I knew that I had a big gap to any alumni challengers, so I was happy to just let him go.
We love to see that team play here in the CIL. Avery Walker, congrats on the alumni victory here tonight. Who do you want to give a shout out to here tonight?
Honestly, shout out to Tommy for getting up there. I know he had a difficult qualifying, so good job getting up on the podium for UVA, and I'm hoping between the two of us we can do pretty well in student and alumni.
Yeah, definitely excited to see the UVA name up there on the leaderboard. So, Avery Walker, congrats again. Go enjoy this, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
So that was Avery Walker coming away, your alumni winner, fourth overall here tonight. Josh?
Yeah, it was that was a great performance. Absolutely got to love loading up the default set and taking home the class dominance, especially in the Audis. So again, not on my bingo card. We love when things are not expected, and we learn a little something. So I might have to check that out and understand what's going on. But yeah, it's fantastic to see. There was a lot of diversity in the race. Yeah, I don't know if you always go into a race maybe with lots and lots of game plans, but racers have instincts. Drivers and teammates and competitors have instincts, and when you get close and you understand that something like that's starting to develop, I'm sure they can figure it out together.
Yeah, so another great race, and we talked about our picks to win. My pick to win ended up having one of his toughest races, so I think I might actually be bad luck for the FIU Panther Esports team, so might not pick pick them to win again. There's their final results on your screen. Now let's go through the entire finishing order brought to you by InnoVetted Labs. You can check them out at innovetted.com. So
Yeah, indeed. So we've got Sean Campbell there for Randolph Community College that's going to take home the win here tonight. Dominating performance for Mr. Campbell. Sean Delandy, we just talked to for UCLA, coming home second place. Good haul of points for that team. Then Thomas Toomey, I think the Virginia first podium for the Virginia team that I can remember, at least maybe outside of Avery Walker from previous seasons. Avery's going to come home fourth himself. Kyle Bonin in fifth, the highest Clemson University finisher at the moment. And Ted Burns, who just pops into the booth with us for Wisconsin, a fantastic recovery drive. Jarrett, got a question for Mr. Ted Burns here?
yeah, Ted, take us through that recovery drive, because we talked about at the end of the race just the mental toughness you have to have driving on your own and trying to catch back up. And you did it here tonight in the 081 car. So take us through that final run.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough drive. It was just an unfortunate error there. I was just the cars were a little bit different, and I wasn't expecting the Porsches to slow up quite that much in the corner, so I just came in a little bit too hard on the brakes as I was in the middle of the turn, and it kind of sent me around, and it was sitting there, didn't want to ruin anyone else's race, and it was a long time. I was sitting out there on the gravel trap before I could get going. I think it ended up being like 16 seconds. I lost that lap, but after that, I knew I was had decent pace if I was running up there with the guys in the top five. So I just tried to stay consistent, hit all my marks every lap, and it worked out. And making sure I kept my eyes up ahead when I saw yellow flags. I got a call for a car spun. I got pretty close a couple times. I know I was following Alex for a while coming up through the field, and there was a car spun on the right on the curbing on the last corner, and Alex just T-boned him. And so I was luckily I popped my eyes up, saw it, and was able to adjust enough. And so yeah, I was just keeping calm and making sure I hit all my marks, get back up there, and yeah, ended up coming up, went all the way to P6. I was really happy about that.
Yeah, P6 overall, but more importantly, P2 for the alumni. And I think you missed the last race, and I know you were out at Indy a little bit earlier, so I bet you probably didn't have all that much time to practice. Did you have time to get a setup in for this car?
Not really. I was actually undecided what car to run here. I was just got home from work at about hour and so before practice, and sat there and went through about 5 different cars trying to figure out which one I wanted to race. So came into the session, all of a sudden qualifying had already started, so I kind of threw something together. I'd worked on for about 20-30 minutes the night before, so it was a pretty rough setup, but it was definitely drivable, so I was able to push it and make sure I could keep rolling speed and get some consistent lap times in.
Well, consistency was key, and you showed it. Walk us through a little bit on just turn 4. An articulate driver such as yourself. We saw a ton of cars, and probably the most of any corner, any sector on the track there at turn 4. You're braking downhill. You're turning into a little bit of a tighter radius. Maybe grab a little curb, maybe not. But then you're back, and you continue turning through the acceleration as the weight's transferring on the car.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us maybe what makes turn 4 at the Red Bull Ring so difficult, and why did we see so many cars turned around there tonight?
It was just really the nature of the corner, how it's so not only downhill all the way, to the apex, but even after the apex, it continues going downhill, but 90 degrees now to the right. So it just never stops going downhill throughout the corner. So it's really tricky on the braking, and if you end up letting up off of your brake pressure at all, and releasing your trail brake a little bit too early, it lifts a lot of weight off the nose, and all of a sudden the car just starts to understeer and just plow through the corner. So it's you have to have a lot of discipline to keep the weight on the nose as you're turning in. It requires quite a bit more brake pressure than most corners do on that final little trail brake. I found it was a bit more beneficial and more consistent to actually brake a little bit earlier than what my maximum was going into the corner. So I wasn't quite completely loaded up on the ABS there. So it's about, half to a full car length early in the brake zone. Whereas, in a qualifying run, I could push it down to maybe like the 105. I was braking at more like the 115, 120 for the majority of the race. And that definitely helped me get better runs out. And I found I was gaining a lot of time on some of my competitors, especially on the exit out of that corner. You gained a lot more on exit than I ever would going in.
Well, definitely a lot of fun watching you weave through traffic on that corner exit all night long. Ted Burns, a great finish, second place in the Alumni, sixth overall. Who do you want to give a shout out to here tonight?
Love to give a shout out to you three up here in the booth. Do a great job putting on this series every week. I just wish I could get out here and race more often with you guys. It's a lot of fun watching it when I can't make it. So thanks for putting on such a great competitive and fun league.
Well, thanks for giving us a show to put on here tonight. Ted Burns coming away second in the Alumni. Congrats again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. See you guys.
So Ted Burns joining us after a beautiful recovery run, and you heard it from him right there, just smooth and consistent. And I think that's really been his mantra. And smooth and consistent for him is fast and out of control for a lot of other people, John.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But that is what we have come to expect from Ted Burns. We know that he is one of the top names in the series and one of the guys that a lot of people will go to for setup help, especially him being incredibly talented at setting up cars, no matter what it is, if it's a GT3 car or a Formula car of any kind. He is very knowledgeable in that way. So a wide base of knowledge for this series as we see the remaining finishers up here on your screen. But Jarrett, Josh, a couple takeaway thoughts here tonight. Sean Campbell ran away with this race, that 20-second gap, coming home with the win here. And he's going to have a 20-point advantage, I think, if I recall the point structure correctly, going into round 3 over Sean Valandia. Same finishing order for the top two races in a row. What do you guys think is going to change going forward, Jarrett?
Yeah, I mean, something's got to change if Valendia is going to catch up, because you said it right there. The points are top heavy. Winning races means a lot for these guys, and Sean Campbell back with 2 wins. So it's going to be tough to catch the 33 team in Randolph Community College. But if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Sean Valendia, and possibly even some help from Thomas Toomey or Kyle Bonin, or maybe a name we didn't hear, and kind of surprised we didn't hear, Alexander Klenk back there in 9th. So tough run for him in WPI, but I'm sure we'll see him back up toward the front. Parker Eaton making a return, barely just outside the top 10, finishing 11th. Wouldn't be surprised if we hear that name a couple more times this season. Josh?
Yeah, I think so. I think my takeaway, and that's kind of why I asked Ted what he thought. Discipline in that corner, but also through traffic. I mean, take a look at your front runners, right? Even if they had mistakes, they were able to come back. They were able to keep their head down and remain competitors. And I think that's what these guys are doing. So certainly it's going to have to be UCLA to the drawing board and Virginia to the drawing board. Randolph is looking good, but is going to have to stay on it. We know that Sean Campbell is a scientist for those guys and able to, I'll say take 30 minutes of practice and turn it into 5 hours of knowledge and car setup. And you saw that tonight, just driving away from the field. So consistency and driving, John. I liked what you said about spinning with or spinning in sympathy. Right, that's not how you're going to be able to finish these out. And take any one of our top three guys, nearly flawless. So, so I would say flawless. Kyle Abonin from Clemson, there with the scenic route through pit lane, clearing that black flag for incidents. But that's what these guys are going to have to contend with, and that's what they're going to have to understand and expect of each other, and push themselves to be is just about perfect from now till the end.
So as we look forward next week, we head back to the oval side and we head to Texas Motor Speedway, located close to John down there
Yeah.
in the great state of Texas. So that'll be great race. Look forward to seeing how the draft package works on the new Texas track. So be interested to see that one. Tune in next week, same time, same place. You'll see quite a different style of racing there. And if you want more road action, be sure to tune in 2 weeks' time as we go, I believe, to the Hockenheim Ring, another new track to the iRacing surface, new track to the CiL series, and new to these GT3 cars with those new tires. It'll be very interesting to see that technical track that is the Hockenheim Ring. John?
Yeah, very much looking forward to that one. A track that a lot of these guys have had some time to practice already as well, but noted for being very flat, but having some very challenging corners at the same time. So it's going to be a setup challenge for a lot of these guys. Expect to see quite a bit of variation in, I think, a little bit further down the field. I still expect to see some of the similar names still up towards the front, but it's a track that takes a little bit different level of driving skill to compete at. So, Josh, I'm looking forward to that one.
And looking forward to Hockenheim, probably one of my top 5 favorite tracks that we get to go to here, and probably Red Bull as well on that list. But looking in 7 days' time to the Oval at Texas, it's an intermediate track. We have a good package on these NASCAR Cup cars. These guys are going to put on a race, and it's going to be pretty competitive. Drivers, and it's going to be a full field at that race as well. So. Tune in then for the last chance qualifier. Going to have the full car feature race, and it's going to be 2 wide, 3 wide racing. Texas, they expanded that track to give a little bit more racing room, so I am looking forward to that one.
Lots of good college racing action on the horizon. So be sure to tune back in and join us for that one. Until then, for myself, Josh, and John up here in the booth, it's been a pleasure. And